On their way back from a family visit, a tense atmosphere prevailed between Ricky and his wife, Joan. Joan complained about Ricky's changed behavior towards her family and his cold feelings. While he tried to calm her down, a minor traffic accident occurred, adding to their stress and highlighting the growing problem in their relationship. We are introduced to Perry, the couple's daughter. Perry's simple desire for a new battery plays a pivotal role in revealing the depth of the conflict between her parents. The situation develops dramatically when Ricky struggles to buy the battery, revealing an unexpected financial problem. This simple event leads to a series of small mistakes that accumulate to reveal deeper problems in the marital relationship. Events unfold rapidly. While Ricky is busy cleaning the dirty seat, little Perry runs after a colorful balloon, unaware of the dangers lurking around her. She hears a dog barking, gets scared, and screams for her father. Ricky rushes towards his daughter, who is standing on the edge of a deep pit, her small body trembling with fear. He tries to calm her down, but she gets closer to the edge. In a moment of despair, Ricky pushes the dog away with a stone and rushes to save his daughter, but they both fall into the pit. Ricky wakes up in the dark, hearing a strange voice telling him that she is dead. The shock of the fall makes him unable to understand what is happening. Joan rushes to the pit and finds Perry motionless and unresponsive. She tries to wake Ricky up, but he is in a state of shock and pushes her away as he tries to understand the situation. Then he hears Perry's weak voice. Ricky rushes towards his daughter and tells Joan not to move her. Perry's arm is injured and she cannot move it. Ricky decides to take her to the hospital as quickly as possible. At the hospital, Joan's anxiety increases when they are told to wait. Ricky starts acting nervously, demanding that his daughter be admitted immediately. While he is trying to speed up the procedures, he notices an ambulance arriving with 2 injured people. He sees a nurse receiving a bribe from the ambulance driver. Upon their return to the hospital, Ricky and his wife face an unexpected surprise. The clerk discovers that the wife's name registered in the insurance documents is Andy, his deceased first wife. After this mistake, a series of unfortunate events begin. The clerk asks the couple to agree to donate their daughter's organs in the event of her death, a request that arouses Joan's grief and anger. She refuses this request, which leads to the insurance company refusing to cover the treatment costs. Ricky is forced to pay out of his own pocket. While they are waiting, Ricky notices that the clerk who is dealing with them is the same old lady he met at the gas station. This chance encounter adds to his feelings of confusion and anxiety. After the initial examinations, the doctor decides to take an x-ray of Perry's arm and requests that Ricky also be examined due to his head injury. Ricky refuses the examination, insisting on his desire to check on his daughter first. Strangely, Ricky later wakes up to find his head wound covered with a band-aid, even though he remembers refusing the examination. Ricky returns to the reception desk to look for his wife and daughter, but he finds a new clerk who knows nothing about their case. He goes to his daughter's doctor but learns that he has left the hospital. His anxiety increases when the clerk fails to find any records under his daughter's name, Perry. Ricky's suspicions begin to grow when he sees a coat resembling Perry's in the trash can. The clerk contacts the radiology department, but learns that only one examination was performed for an old man. Ricky tries to enter the hospital departments himself to search for his daughter and wife, but he finds no trace of them. His madness increases when he confirms that the nurse who took Perry is the same one he was talking to in the morning. He felt that everyone was conspiring against him. Due to his insistence, he was sedated and injected with a tranquilizer. Ricky took advantage of the staff's distraction and escaped from the room. During his escape, he saw the nurse who had taken Perry earlier wearing a doctor's uniform. The security guard began to chase him, but Ricky managed to escape from the hospital. At the end of the chase, he sought help from the police. Ricky informed the police of the strange details of his wife and daughter's disappearance in the hospital. His suspicions increased when he noticed that the staff were acting strangely as if they were hiding something. The police officers entered the hospital with Ricky, but the staff tried to mislead them and provided conflicting accounts. Ricky pointed to the security guard who had assaulted him, but the guard denied it. When they reached the responsible doctor, he seemed confused and anxious. He tried to steer the conversation away from the topic of Perry and Joan's disappearance and gave conflicting accounts about where the x-rays were taken. Ricky began to suspect that everyone was conspiring against him. He noticed that the doctor used his first wife's name, Andy, which further increased his suspicions. The security guard suggested reviewing the security cameras, but no clear evidence of Perry and Joan's presence in the hospital was found, unveiling the bitter truth. When the police reviewed the security cameras, they discovered that the places where Perry and Joan were supposed to be were out of camera range. Doubt began to creep into the policewoman's heart, and she began to believe that Ricky might be suffering from a mental disorder. At that moment, an idea came to Ricky's mind that might help him prove the truth. He suggested that the police take him to the gas station, where the problem started believing that the old woman might remember him with his wife and daughter. While they were in the hospital, Ricky found Perry's scarf, which further strengthened Ricky's belief in her presence in the hospital. However, this evidence was not enough to convince the police. The psychiatrist suggested examining Ricky and revealed a shocking truth. It turned out that Ricky was suffering from temporary memory loss and had linked the incident of Perry falling into the pit with his previous accident with his first first wife. They took him to the scene of the accident where the dogs found Perry's toy and a large amount of blood. Ricky claimed that the blood was his own, but the psychiatrist doubted his story. After analyzing the events, the psychiatrist concluded that Ricky might have unintentionally caused Perry to fall out of anger and frustration. When he felt guilt and fear, his mind created an alternative reality to protect him from the painful truth. The psychiatrist asked Ricky again about Perry and Joan's whereabouts, and when he did not respond, the police arrested him on charges of murder and hiding the bodies. Suddenly, the police dog sensed something approaching. Ricky is surprised by the appearance of the dog he saw in the morning when Perry fell. At that moment, he realizes that everything was a trick to make the police suspect him. He quickly snatches the gun from the policewoman, threatening everyone with it. He then locks everyone in a room so he can take the police car and return to the hospital. When he arrives there, he steals a doctor's clothes and disguises himself so that no one recognizes him. He heads to the elevator to go down to the floor where he saw Perry and Joan go down, but he finds the doctor and the nurse who detained him standing in front of the elevator. He tries to catch them, but the door closes at the last moment. He tries to open the elevator, but discovers that the elevator does not go down to this floor except with a special key. Suddenly, the door opens to reveal the security guard in front of him. After a struggle between them, Ricky manages to take the key from him and goes down to the lower floor. There, he hears a sound coming from the trash bags. When he examines it, he finds Perry's toy that the nurse gave her. He quickly hides when he sees two people coming out of a room carrying boxes labeled human organs. Ricky enters the room they came out of and is shocked to find two bodies, but he is slightly relieved when he discovers that Perry is not among the bodies. Then he sees the insurance clerk carrying a box and he remembers her words about Perry donating her organs to the hospital. This makes him decide to follow her in the hope that he will reach his wife and daughter before their organs are stolen. Ricky sneaks into the room the clerk entered and finds Perry there. He rushes towards her, threatening everyone with the gun in their faces and screaming that he will kill anyone who approaches her. When he looks beside him, he finds Joan drugged on a chair, waiting for her turn to have her organs stolen. Ricky manages to save them at the last moment and flees with them from the hospital. During the escape, he sees the nurse, disguised in doctor's clothes, who tries to prevent him from leaving. Ricky shoots him in the leg to get past him. Then he gets into the car with Perry and Joan and leaves the hospital. Ricky finally feels that the nightmare is over and that he will return home safely, but while driving, he looks in the mirror to check on them only to be surprised that no one is sitting in the back except two drugged people who were undergoing surgery. At that moment, Ricky realizes that everything he saw was just an illusion and that the drugged person is not his daughter. He begins to think that everything that happened was just hallucinations and fantasies created by his mind to escape the terrifying truth, which is that he is the one who killed his wife and daughter. He accidentally hit his daughter instead of hitting the dog, and when he felt the shock of his daughter's death, his wife tried to wake him up, but he pushed her to the ground, which led to a metal rod entering her head. He remembers the psychiatrist's words when she said that the mind is capable of creating a false reality to protect itself from trauma. The film explores how the human mind can create a false reality to protect a person from severe psychological trauma. The protagonist, Ricky, faces a tragedy that leads him to create a different scenario of events where he believes that his wife and daughter have disappeared in a mysterious hospital, while the truth is more tragic than he can imagine. After the accident that occurs, Ray's perception of the events around him completely changes. The film plays on the idea that trauma can push a person to deny reality and create a different narrative to protect himself from psychological pain. Obsession can lead to self-destruction. Throughout the film, the protagonist lives in a spiral of doubt and tension which drives him to make extreme and dangerous decisions. The film shows how obsession with a particular idea can lead to isolation, violence, and even personal disaster. The film uses the unreliable narration technique where events are presented from Ricky's perspective, but we later discover that everything may be just an illusion. This technique makes the viewer wonder throughout the film whether Ricky is insane or if there is indeed a conspiracy against him. And in the end, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button to receive all new updates.